Trump declares himself king, and the Supreme Court of the United States says, let's think about that. All that and more now on Graf's Grievances. It became painfully obvious this week that the Republican-appointed majority on the Supreme Court is not concerned with justice, but rather aiding Donald Trump in his quest to avoid prison and retake control of the White House, instead of focusing on the case before them and whether Trump is immune from criminal charges brought against him by special counsel Jack Smith. The Trump subservient justices ran interference for the former president.
If the court has concerns about the robustness of it, I would suggest looking at the charges in this case.
Well, I want to talk about this in the abstract.
Conspiracies to defraud the United States with respect to one of the most important functions, namely the certification of the next president.
Well, I don't want to dispute the particular application of 371, conspiracy to defraud the United States, to the particular facts here.
It's difficult to think of a more critical function than the certification of who won the election.
Yeah, I'm not, as I said, I'm not discussing the particular facts of this case.
You heard there Justice Samuel Alito say, quote, I want to talk about this in the abstract. I am not discussing the particular facts of this case. Why would we, the Supreme Court, talk about the facts of the case before us? Maybe because the facts are damning for our dear leader, Donald Trump. And Alito wasn't alone in his desire to avoid discussing whether Trump has absolute immunity from criminal charges based on his acts as president.
I'm not concerned about this case, but I am concerned about future uses of the criminal law to target political opponents based on accusations about their motives.
Like Justice Gorsuch, I'm not focused on the here and now of this case. I'm very concerned about the future.
That was Trump-appointed Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, also saying they too are not interested in whether Trump can legally be held accountable for staging a failed deadly coup. But remember, that is the case before the Supreme Court, which they agreed to hear back in February after a unanimous ruling by a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Circuit of Appeals rejected Trump's claim of absolute immunity. So why did the High Court take this case, especially if 6 of its 9 members were not going to engage in the fundamental question before them? Because the Republican-appointed majority on the court is determined to do everything in their power to aid Donald Trump. By taking this ludicrous case, the Supreme Court only further delayed Trump's criminal trial in D.C. that was originally set to begin on March 4th. But now, thanks to the Supreme Court, Trump might never be held accountable. By the time the court issues its decision, it will be late June or early July. And that is critical because should Trump be reelected in November, he will dismiss Jack Smith and the criminal charges Smith has brought against him related to January 6th and his stealing of thousands of classified defense documents. As for why I am not concerned about the Supreme Court agreeing with Trump that presidents have absolute immunity for criminal acts taken as president, because such a ruling would not be good for Donald Trump.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts for which he can get immunity?
Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor deftly questioning the limits of presidential immunity and pointing out the glaring problem with Trump's absolute immunity argument. Should the court rule in Trump's favor that the president cannot be prosecuted for criminal acts taken in office, the current president, Joe Biden, would seemingly have firm legal ground to order the assassination of a former president who tried to overturn a free and fair election and stole thousands of the nation's most highly classified documents. To be clear, such a ruling legalizing political violence by the president would not only be dangerous for Donald Trump, but would be catastrophic for our democratic republic. It seems very important that the president has some immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts. But as the majority of the Supreme Court and the American people seem to know intuitively, absolute immunity for the President of the United States is bonkers. And Trump's argument that he is entitled to such should have never been taken up by the Supreme Court in the first place. But the Republican-appointed majority on the High Court chose to do so because they are more interested in appeasing Trump than they are in defending the Constitution of the United States. Thank you for watching Graf's Grievances. Let me know what you think. Please like, subscribe, share, and join me in the next one.